All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the 1883 Speaker Series. My name is Mike Wozniak, and I serve as the Coordinator of Leadership and Programming in the Student Involvement and Parent Programs Office. Each week, we invite a campus or community leader to talk about how today's student can develop their leadership skills, as well as other advice regarding personal and professional development. We hope you learn some valuable lessons in the next 18 minutes and 83 seconds. For tonight's speakers, please join me in welcoming the current Student Body President, Ella Nelson, and Vice President, Connor Ferguson.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to start off and thank everyone for coming to listen to Connor and I speak today. We really appreciate you taking the short time out of your day just to hear what we have to say about our leadership experience. So just to start off, Connor and I, when we started running for Student Body President and Vice President, we had no idea who each other were. We didn't know each other existed. We had a few mutual friends, but we came from extremely different places on campus. I was part of Greek life. That's kind of where I started my leadership journey here at UND. And then I became an off-campus senator, went into Greek council, and then became student body president. And when I ran, Connor and I, again, didn't know each other. So it really forced us to have these different perspectives and to really take into account the different groups and people on campus.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I started first, I guess, my leadership journey in the Minnesota Youth and Government program. I started in 8th grade. You can see me very proud up in the, bottom left for you guys, right? In my nice court robes. I was really into it. I've just always been into really policy-oriented stuff, into government. And so that's kind of where I started, but I was really into courts because I like to debate people. I then went into hall government. Me and my roommates, current roommates now, took it way too seriously. We established the Selkie Residents Coalition. We made people vote for our party, and we went door to door, and we took it really seriously. And then I joined the North Dakota Student Association, got really involved into that, and then I became the student body vice president. So the big question, right? So what, right? What does this matter? Well, obviously, Elle and I are the youngest children, so it's really important that you guys know how special we are as the youngest in our families. But no, more importantly, Elle and I come from really different backgrounds, and most importantly, there are many paths to leadership. Ella took a very different route than me. She got really involved in the Greek community. She dedicated herself to the sorority and to Pan-Hellenic as a whole. As for me, I got really into the policy and the debate side of leadership. And really, there's no wrong way to approach it, right? We both ended up in the same place from completely different sides. So where are the 3 points that we meet? One, being involved. Ella was highly involved in the Greek community. She's dedicated so much time. Even as president, she's dedicated herself as a Rho Gamma. I was involved in the NDSA. I was involved in hall government. I really tried to make myself as approachable and I guess useful as possible. Second, forming connections, right? Meeting people where they're at, trying to work with those who are different than you. And third, maintaining character. I mean, we try to work hard. We try to be genuine and honest with people. And so that's really, I think, the 3 most important aspects of leadership.
So the path to becoming a strong leader, it's not easy, and it's definitely not simple. I started off as a very shy, not as a confident leader. Like Connor said, I kind of started my leadership journey within the Greek community, and I didn't really have any thoughts of getting more involved than that. I was told that I was too shy, I need to be more assertive, I don't have the right personality, and that I'm simply not ready for it. And these are all pretty, rough to hear, and it's really discouraging when you hear these things from your peers and your friends and your family at home. However, these aren't bad qualities to have, and they should not be seen as weak qualities. Again, I'm a very empathetic, shy leader, and that's okay. It's important to be an empathetic leader and a compassionate leader to be able to hear other perspectives, be able to take into account other people's opinions, and just to be able to be a motivating leader and encourage others. So going off of that, no one is really ready for leadership, and it's about taking the first step. So when I came into this position, it was not necessarily something I wanted to do. It was really nerve-wracking. I didn't know how I was going to balance it with everything else that I was doing, and I didn't think that I was ready for it. And I wasn't, I'm going to be honest, I definitely wasn't, but it was about taking that step. And taking that first step is always going to feel uncomfortable. It's never going to feel right, and it's going to feel like something that you shouldn't necessarily be doing. However, it's just important that you step out of your comfort zone and you just, again, take that first step. And a great example of this that I experienced actually not so long ago was when Connor and I and a few others were able to go to Thailand for the World Peace Summit. A few of us were actually able to go on a tour where our tour guide was very adamant that we try one of Thailand's delicacies, and it ended up being bugs, which was not something that I ever expected. So I looked at it and I'm like, I'm definitely not doing this. This is not something that I want to do. It's not something that I ever saw myself doing, and it's definitely out of my comfort zone. But one person in my group took that step. She's actually in the first row, Precious, shout out for eating the first bug. And it motivated us all to just eat the bugs and just try it. And that was the first step that we took, motivated others, got us to do it. And again, it was something that I definitely did not want to do. It was uncomfortable, but the compassion and motivation from the people surrounding me encouraged me to do it. So being a compassionate leader in a world of self-interest and competition can be really frustrating. We live in a world where it's quite honestly human nature to want to defend your opinion, want to just hear your own perspective, but that's not necessarily how it should be. It's definitely a misconception that strong leaders are pretty stone cold, authoritative, opinionated, and pretty assertive. However, this is not the case. Like I said before, I started off as a pretty shy leader. That didn't necessarily see myself as the most self-confident and assertive person, but I took those qualities that were deemed as weak, and I maximized them into something that made me a much better leader. And I'm very proud to say that I'm an empathetic leader, and I do show compassion within my leadership. As again, it's a very common misconception that leaders are these things. So then this leads into the idea that you need to be the change and set the example that you want to see. Because I'm not going to be the only leader. I'm not going to be student body president forever. There's going to be people after me. And the last thing that I want to do is set that example of being stone cold, assertive, and not motivating and compassionate to the people after me. Because I want to be that example, and I want to ensure that UND has a bright future. And so I don't want to be these things that are misconceptions of strong leaders, and I want to show compassion and empathy so I can motivate others to do what I'm doing. So what does it actually mean to be a compassionate leader? I know we've been kind of throwing this word around and not necessarily saying, what does it really mean? So when you think of compassion, you think of kindness, and that's obviously very important, but it's not the only part of being a compassionate leader. So being a compassionate leader, we actually learned about this in Thailand at the World Peace Summit. It means to listen, not to reply and defend, but to learn and to understand. And this is something that really stuck with me, because I know I've, guilty of this as well. When somebody says something I might not agree with, I'm going to want to defend my opinion. I'm not really going to want to listen to them. But it's important that we learn and we understand and we take in other perspectives, because that's extremely important in being a compassionate leader. If we don't listen to other perspectives, then how good of a leader are we really? So this kind of goes into listening without judgment. It's extremely important to look at your own opinion and see it not as the only picture, but just as a little piece of the puzzle. It's not the only opinion out there, and it's important to challenge your own opinions and your own perspectives so that you can grow from hearing others. And again, listening not to reply, but to learn and to understand.
Awesome. So we've learned a lot about, what compassionate leadership is, what it looks like. So, where do we go from here? How do we get started, right? First step, you've got to overcome doubt. Of course, there are always going to be people who doubt you, and that hurts. It's terrible, and it feels, it makes you feel really bad inside. But way much worse than that is the doubt that you have for yourself. Sorry, I'm kind of getting feedback here. You have to overcome your own self-doubt. Coming into this position, I had never served on Senate before, right? And so I really had to ask myself, am I ready for this? Do I know what I'm doing? And I decided, well, no, but I'm going to figure it out. And I like to believe that I did. I think I do an all right job, good enough. But really, that's the most important stuff, is you have to overcome your own doubt. You have to figure out how to get started. The next thing, find a way to get involved and start doing. Teddy Roosevelt quote, which I'm going to try to read, but it's a little hard from the distance here. This is kind of one that I've lived by for a long time. Quote, get action, do things, be sane, don't fritter away your time. Create, act, take a place wherever you are and be someone. Get action. This was a quote that I heard in probably about 8th grade, and it's just pushed me along from that point. Just finding a place to get involved and just start doing. Anything you do is a stepping stone into leadership. And that's really, I think, the most important part of becoming a compassionate leader. Next up, this is something I heard from a donor to Nistler College, Werner Nistler. If not you, then who, right? If it's not you doing it, then who can we expect to do it? If no one steps up to make the change, no one steps up to become a leader, then no one can step up to be a leader. And that's a common thing, we've heard it a lot. But I want to take it a little further on the question of who. If not you, then who, right? If it's not you, who really is making the change? Is it someone that you agree with? Is it me? Maybe you agree with me, maybe you disagree with me, or is it someone that you strongly disagree with? And if you're unwilling to make that forward step into leadership, then to a certain degree, you may be signing away what, your right to say what you want, what you don't want. So really, if not you, then who? And finally, find your niche. Find the place that you exist and that you excel at. This is actually a really exciting example. Bike New York. They are an exceptional niche. They do a really simple thing, and it's kind of small, and you wouldn't think how impactful it is. What Bike New York does is, they're based in New York. They take in used bicycles from New Yorkers all around. They fix them up, and they give them to people who have newly immigrated to the United States, to New York. And it's such a little thing, but a bike for someone who just immigrated to the United States, specifically in New York, can be massive. It can make such a change on their ability to move upward economically, to meet new people, to go out and be involved in their community, to make money. And so it's about finding your niche. I mean, this is such a little thing. They give bikes to people who immigrate to the United States. And if you can find something small like that, something that can really make an impact on people, that's where you find your niche, and that's where you start working, and that's where you really make an impact on your community as a whole. So let's talk a little bit about using compassionate leadership to make change. First, let empathy be your guide, your empathy for others, the empathy that can be generated on the issues that you have. What do people care about? What are people talking about? What are the issues that you're hearing from others? And then how can your leadership serve others? I think compassionate leadership, when we talk about it, really falls a lot into servant leadership, something that all of us on the Student Gov Exec team in the Senate are really familiar with. How can we serve student body? How can we serve students as a whole, the Grand Forks community? So let your empathy for others guide you through compassionate leadership. Next up, build bridges. Build bridges with other people. Build bridges with people that you strongly disagree with. Whether you're on the left or the right, you have to build bridges if you want anything to get done. But I think a really important question is, what do you need to build a bridge, right? You can't, I guess you could take a very long time to build a bridge on your own, but you need people. You need a civil engineer, you need construction workers, you need someone from the city to sign off on your permits. You need a lot of people. And so if you want to build bridges from one side to another, groups who disagree, you have to involve a lot of different people. You have to be personally involved, and you have to dedicate others to that goal. Next up, the power of the few. I love this one. For those who aren't aware, there's this thing called the 3.5% rule. It's by Erica Chenoweth. She's an instructor at Harvard in political science. What the 3.5% rule states is that social change only needs about 3.5% of a population. Let's say we wanted to make a big change here in Grand Forks. You only need about 20,000 students. That's about 2,000 people. It's about 14% of the UND population. And this is talking about making change on a local level, trying to make positive community-based change. You need only about 3.5%. You just need this small percentage of a population to really make change. So if you go out, you make friends, you involve community members, you involve people that you know, and you have them involve their friends, and involve their friends, you have a movement. You have change, and you have forward momentum. All you need is 3.5%. And finally, become process-oriented. Process ends up being more valuable than your outcomes. Outcomes are big, right? Outcomes are so impactful in getting people involved, but outcomes are rarely enough. It can take years to reach the outcome that you want. And if you're only focused on that outcome, you will likely burn out. I know many people who have been working towards specific outcomes. I'm from Minneapolis. I know a lot of people in different political spheres, and they've been working towards some specific goal. And when they work at, I've seen them get to the point where they just don't believe in the movement anymore. You have to be interested in the process over the outcome, because that's how you protect yourself and your own sanity. Finally, this is my favorite one. How do we apply this? I call this the PPK method. This is one of my dads, Dr. John Ferguson, Virginia Tech. He uses this most frequently on Delta customer service. It works really, really well. Patience, persistence, and kindness. This is all he has taught me. This is how you get what you want. This is how I get what I want. I've been on so many calls with the IRS. I had identity theft, and this is how I get through this problem. First, patience. You have to be willing to dedicate time. You have to be willing to sit there and listen to them and talk and take the time to get through whatever specific issue you have. Persistence. I call it being annoying. You just have to get at them and you just have to keep pushing the issue. But this applies to the city, right, or to the state. If you want something changed in the legislature, you have to meet with your legislators or call them and call them again, call them until they know your name, call them until you know they know your issues. And then finally, kindness. You don't get what you want by screaming at people. Well, some people do. I haven't found it that effective. But be kind, right? You can get so much more with people if you're just kind to them. In the South we call it sweeter than sugar, right? You just have to be sweeter than sugar. But if you're like that, people will want to help you. They want to get alongside you. They want to work with you. So now we have to go out and find a place to apply it. So, in recap, listen and challenge yourself. Build bridges. Let empathy guide you. And as Teddy Roosevelt said, get action. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ella. Thank you, Connor. And thanks to all of you again for coming. Join us next week when we welcome the head coach of the men's hockey program, Brad Barry. Have a great rest of your week.